How did you find building that muscle into your current teams? And how did you know your current teams actually built that data-driven muscle? Kees, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I think there are many ways and like to build data-driven culture. And I think about experimentation specific, I think what I've really seen working is when there is really hot debates about what is debatable on an experiment that looks so obvious that we should just ship it, right? And then those are the best things, because if you then find out that actually it doesn't behave as you thought, then you really prove that it has value, that you should not just ship it. So that's most controversial kind of things. If you really manage as a team to still get those teams rapid in experiments, then you can prove the value of experimentation quite easier, let's say.
Maybe it's relatively obvious, but in order to implement a culture of experimentation in the company, you must have a committed management. Because one of the issues with experimentation is that it takes resources, it takes time.
In order to A/B test, an agile team needs to go to a lot of different teams, like to check for the splitter, for the analytics capabilities, for the analytics platform. And yeah, they just made us understand that they want to be data-driven, but they also want to have the tooling to do that. So.
Our sailing point when we pitch clients why they should do advanced experimentation is by using Cupid, sequential testing, and testing in parallel. I think that you could get between 5 times more testing, or maybe 15 times, could be even almost 20 times more using those advanced analytics capabilities. And many are just starting like an A/B test, which mostly of them are underpowered. Means that like the ability to detect some kind of a change is really low. Like the probability that you will see an effect is relatively low unless you really like made a very bad user experience. You need to plan the test and you need to do it right.
Speaking of breaking the user experience, a lot of times people run experiments is, you want to do a 5% roll-up. If it's bad, you can roll it back, no problem. Media, people sharing on Twitter or Facebook. A lot of times if you have something broken or you're testing a new feature, people post that and share that publicly. How do you balance new experiments, new kinds of features, knowing that people will share this, have a network effect, or you just see bad experiences?
In my opinion, if oversampling doesn't have any cost, do it, because there's always an extra deep dive that you want to do in the data, and then you're happy that you oversample. So for me, I would default it to always 100%. Also, if something is broken, you will find out very quickly. With 5%.
I think that I don't know if it's a really luxury to have a gradual rollout. It's really hard to do that because it takes much more time and it's much more operation cost to do that. And if you are doing sequential testing, or as you said, if you broke something, you will see that like after a day or so. So I think that I would recommend in most cases, if you are not like a really big tech company like Meta or Google or Netflix or Spotify, I don't know, then do your best to do 50-50, like to do a 100% rollout, not rollout, like an A/B test, and check both of them. So I can understand why in these kind of cases you would start with 5%, 10%, because the risk is really, really hard. You can really hurt the business because like Meta and Google get the feedback, and then like you're really ruining the campaigns.
We would say any change has to have like a 6 eyes principle, that you have to go through like multiple review checks and all that, right? So,
how, I guess, in general, what are kind of your principles around making your teams move faster and more efficiently? If someone says this is going to take 2 months, how do you get them to say it'll take 2 weeks?
I think like really asking the why before we can even challenge. When you see it's 2 months, if it's already 2 months to build, and definitely have a lot of discussions with the engineering and counterparts for this, on like what the structure be, like making all of these stories 2 months, or is it just one thing that's an outlier for 2 months, right? So then probably there are a lot of reasons for that.
Maybe the answer that you might like is experimentation mindset. And try to find the minimum viable experiment to validate anything as you're building.
With respect to product building in general, are there any key philosophies that you will hold?
I do recall, like when I was at Google, hearing one company talking about how they built a new product with experimentation. And it was super interesting. They were trying to do whatever they can to build like an MVP to the product, even sometimes not really misleading the users. But there, for an example, it was an e-commerce store, and they wanted to design a new product. And they didn't know if people are going to like it or what variation they would like. So they would set like a landing page of the product, and they would they would buy traffic for users to see it, and they would A/B test that and see where they get the best conversion rate, and that really influenced how they designed, how they build the product and how they design it. So it was not experimentation at the end of after you finish building the product. It was experimentation through the whole process.
What we are trying to do is really like to feed this build, measure, learn loop where the users start. At Babbel, we are trying to be really user-centric and collecting feedback along the way. And we start building feature according to user insight. Then we measure it in a A/B test. We can make the decision to ship or not, collect learnings, and this is feeding the loop back. Just about trying to be user-centric and learn from the process.
So like for me, product, it's all about how can you run as many loops as possible in the shortest amount of time. Like that's when you like fully focus on getting learning from your customers. So how to get that feedback. And I think also building a team that is excited about that feedback loop. Like I have worked with teams and engineers in my teams and designers in my teams that really needed to get enthusiastic about the impact about the features. If you can't make them enthusiastic about it, then you also need to make changes in your team. Like otherwise it's going to be really hard to have this experimentation culture and this loop. So you need to really build a team that celebrates that sets targets on this, that has that kind of like motivation behind it.
How do you keep people focused and always changing the metric to be the right thing to be focused on?
I think it's truly one of the biggest challenges. There's no right answer, right standard. I think that the tip I give to most companies is that they are doing experimentation for a long time, is that look at the, very similar to what you said, look at the past experiments of the last 2 or 3 years. Look at, you have like long-term KPIs, you have short-term KPIs, and look at the correlation. So correlation, it's not causation, but it could give you a very good signal if, for example, there's a very short-term KPI which really correlates with retention. And since you have like historical data from tests that you did a year or 2 years ago, then you can learn a lot from it. I think it's a very good start.
And what this brings to the table is also whatever change you're introducing as a product team into your product, you can understand not just how it's impacting the immediate metrics around that particular feature or product that you're building, but also how it might be correlated to the metrics that are important for the company, which in the past has been, I would say, kind of difficult to instrument.
So first part of the question is, how does the experimentation differs for a B2B product versus a B2C product? And as you go on doing experimentation throughout the development process, how do you set your objective at different stages of the development process?
KPIs that are really like matching with them, because that is really a good indicator if you're building on a longer term a good product, rather than just optimizing for the revenue of if that person will pay like next month your subscription, rather than like would my product power on like these type of things, because it's really like you incorporate the volume of these customers. So if you manage to do that, I think that would be, in my opinion, a good thing.
So you say that NPS, that's the Net Promoter Score, is the best metric that can say that the product is doing well. That is the one of the metric. What is the metric according to you that elevates your happiness? Like, okay, my product is doing well. Like, what is that particular thing that makes you happy when you see, okay, this is going well?
One of the key metrics that I used to look at, it's called the Sean Ellis score. Sean Ellis was this guy who used to work companies like Dropbox, etc. And the score was measuring the product market fit of whatever product you're building, right? And it's asking, it's kind of similar to NPS. It's asking a simple question. If I take away this product from your life today, how disappointed would you be? And it's just 3 answers. Very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, and I don't care. So the score basically suggests that you want to get your customers to say that they will be very, very disappointed, and more than 40% of your customers should say that, and that's what defines product market fit. And I have always loved this particular framework, this metric, because it kind of captures how, or the impact of your product within the market in a very nice and succinct manner. So yeah, this is one thing that I used to look forward to.
We spoke about KPI trees, we spoke about proxy metrics, composite metrics. My ask for you, because it's a big topic also in the literature, is predicted metrics. What is your take on this? Have you considered using predicted metrics as primary for Kees? I know. What is your take? What is your perception on whether or not this is a good practice or something that people shouldn't do?
I remember when I was with statistician, there was like a data scientist working a lot about trying to predict the LTV after 24 hours, or if someone is going to buy or not, purchase or not the product. Like in theory, it's great. So if you could, in like short term, predict with some kind of a model what's going to happen in the long term, it's awesome. Like you want to do that. The purchase plan page 3 times, then the probability for him to purchase is going to be really high. That you're going to predict that. So if you know this is one of the factors in your prediction, you might manipulate like either the user journey, I don't know, send in lots of emails, SMS, and make him like do that. So now I'm not saying like in general, I think it's a very good direction. You want to do that, but it's hard and it has many risks. Like we try to compare the model with like the historical data. I think it was okay, but the risk of manipulating the data is really, it's a big risk.
Everything is driven from dashboards, everything is driven from data.